Today we are going to motorize a model airplane. We will need to learn the materials, skills, and techniques needed to motorize this airplane. First, we will need a model kit. You can motorize any model kit, but keep in mind that the smaller the kit, the more difficult it will be to put the materials inside of the airplane. Let's get started. First is the motor, of course. It is a motor that will fit inside the motor part of your airplane. We have here a 1.5 to 3 volt motor, available in most hobby shops or electronic stores. Then we have an N-size battery and an N-size battery holder, N as in Nancy. We also need to put a bit of tape on it, which is holding onto the glove as you can see here, to make sure the battery goes in and does not fall out somewhere along the line of putting it in the airplane fuselage. We will also need a switch. In this case, the switch can handle anything from 3 to 125 volts, but we like it because it is small in size, and it should be hidden somewhere inside your model airplane. As far as tools, we need a simple soldering iron. This can be found at most hardware stores. This is nothing more than a heating element which is able to melt the solder with its pointy end. We will also need a roll of electrical tape and some resin core solder to put the wiring together. A bit of small gauged wire is needed to connect everything. A hot glue gun, as you can see here, available in most hobby shops, and a couple of hot glue sticks, as you can see on the back of the end of the glue gun. We need to make sure we understand the wiring. We take one end of the motor and solder it to one end of the battery. We take the other end of the motor and solder it to the switch. The switch is then soldered to the other end of the battery. It is a good idea to make a couple of quick connectors. You take a couple of 6-inch lengths of wire and solder it into a couple of alligator clips to each ends. This allows you to connect the batteries to switches, switches to motors, and so on, because we need to be testing everything as we go along. Again, it is important to reiterate how wiring goes together. One end of the motor is connected to the battery. The other end of the motor is connected to the switch, which is then connected to the other end of the battery. Really, it is a very simple setup. We then need to begin to put our airplane kit together. We begin to see where things fit. As you can see, our electronic motor will fit nicely into the cowling, and the battery is fitting just fine underneath the seats of the airplane kit. The motor is fit inside the cowling, and with a little hot glue on the sides, away from the electrical contacts, this holds it in place, as you can see. Next is the switch. As you can see, we carved a small space for the switch in the bottom of the fuselage, and it should be able to slide back and forth within that space. Since the switch has no wires, the wires are soldered on the terminals, as you can see. Then the switch is put into the fuselage, held with a little hot glue and one terminal soldered to the battery. A little bit of electrical tape is used to keep the connections from shorting each other. As you can see, slowly things are put together so that they fit. Now, just to make sure we have things straight, one side of the motor goes to the battery, the other side of the motor goes to the switch, and the other side of that switch goes to the remaining end of the battery. As you can put things together, make sure you are not crossing any wires or soldering the wrong wire into the wrong place. Now, the last thing is the wiring process. It is to take the wires that need to be soldered to the motor and solder them as we put the kit together. Again, you test everything as you put it together. As you can see, this P-51 has the motor being held underneath by a finger while the propeller is fitted to make sure it's fitting as it should. Then a little hot glue is used to keep the sides in place. Now we put our kit together just as normal. Using painting, weathering techniques as normal, we end up with our motorized model. Now our model is finished. We have one more skill in the bag. Now go out there, try it, and of course have fun.